Good morning, everybody. Today we have guest speaker, Dr. Rahul Vardhan. He will talk about the quantum consciousness paradigms for the unification of science and religion. Dr. Rahul's biodata I am just reading. Dr. Rahul Vardhan is a senior lecturer of business technology management at Concordia University. He is an ordained minister with a spiritual science fellowship in Montreal, Canada, a certified professional counselor with the Professional Association of Christian Counselor and Physiotherapist of Canada, certified in transpersonal psychotherapy by the European Transpersonal Association, and a professional engineer with the Professional Engineer of Ontario. His spiritual science research has been published in the Journal of Neuroquantology, Journal of Consciousness, Explanation and Research, and Scientific God Journal. For Mr. Brian, I cannot pronounce the complete family name. Brian Charver Fournier. He has a MSc degree in environmental science, and he will be the translator for the French, whatever Mr. Rahul Vardhan will do. And I hope you all enjoy today's conversation. So now it is all
Thank you very much. Bonjour tout le monde. Hola, comment ça?
Une question.
Oui, bien sûr.
Est-ce que c'est possible que vous veniez en haut parce qu'on vous voit pas?
Ok.
On vous entend pas comme il faut.
Ok. On va parler, on a un microphone ici.
Ah, vous avez un micro?
Okay. Est-ce que vous vous entendez? Vous entendez? Excellent. Ok. Excellent. Okay. Mon nom c'est Raúl Valverde. My name is Raúl Valverde. You see that I'm Mexican. I'm Mexican. I've been here in Montreal for the last many years, 30 years something. So what brought me here? You probably wonder, what the heck a guy with an engineering degree is working with spiritual science and Christianity and all these things together. My path in life has been always, how do we bring science and religion together? You know? Comment est-ce qu'on peut unifier la religion avec la science? That was been my path since I was a little child. So, well, I read Bibles and I read this and that, and I say, how is possible that they all look different? Toutes les religions sont différentes, mais elles ont les mêmes symboles. They have the same symbols. They have soul, immortality, they have God, they have a connection with our fellow beings. All these symbols are everywhere, right? But the question is here, we live in modern times. In modern times, things seem to be more materialistic. You look at technology, you look at economy. So how do we fit all those mystical concepts into modern society? Because modern society seems to be disconnected from these spiritual concepts, because eventually science became the new God. That is the new God. Everybody says, if it's not scientific, it's not real, right? Medicine, engineering, everything we use in everyday is science. And people think, religion is not real. It is just stories. It is things that are nonsense. What's real is only science. So science, all of a sudden, it became the new God, the new religion. And society slowly is moving towards that. But the question is, how do we actually rescue all those concepts that they came from all those religions, Hinduism, Buddhism? Yes?
Possible to use
Sorry. Sorry about that. So how do we unify all these religions? You know, Buddhism, Hinduism, Christianity, Islam. How do we put them together? At the very beginning, the message was the same. It's over the years, and I will show you with some examples, that information has been distorted. You know, it's changed, it's modified. But the key concepts of all religions, the message coming from higher beings to this reality is the same. And it's only now that we have more knowledge about physics, about science, that finally we can understand what all those prophets and all those people that help us to enlighten us were saying. So, my proposal in this lecture is to reinvent ourselves. To be able to reinvent Christianity, reinvent Hinduism, reinvent Buddhism, and reinvent everything so we just unify everything in one science. Because it's spiritual science, this is basically the unification of us as humans with everything we know, science and religion. Because both are part of the same thing. So, my presentation today is about just giving you a few concepts with intention to change your perception of how things are, but at the same time, relate this to your everyday life. Because every day, we see things, we experience things, right? Life is about experience. We're coming here to this world, and we observe things that happen. We think, okay, how is it possible this happens? And then we kind of intuitively think, well, there's something out there that is making this happen. We just call it God, or we call it universe. But everything that we have and experience can be explained. If we have a little bit more understanding of how the universe works. So, few concepts of the paradigm. Everything is interconnected. Everything, they are connected with each other. And I will show you some of the experiments that we have done to prove this. We're all connected, even though it looks like we are individuals. We're sitting there, right? We have a space among us. There's no empty space. That doesn't exist. It's just an illusion in your brain. The reality is that we're all part of this unified system. We call it God. We call it unity. This is what we are. The second part that is important is that the mind is not the brain. The brain is a computer at our command, and we command the computer. So part of the challenge of life, with the tools of yoga, the tools of meditation, the tools that we have learned from all these different spiritual traditions, help us to empower ourselves over our brain. The brain is supposed to be part of us, but we are in charge of our brain. And all psychology, everything we have, all these mental illnesses are about that we are not able to control this brain that is always working, that is helping us to do things, is helping us to create ideas, thoughts. But somehow, because we are very young in this existence, we are unable to control this brain. It's powerful. It can do a lot of things. It can be creative. It can help us to do wonderful things. But we need to train it. How? Yoga, right? Meditation, psychotherapy. We have come with different ideas. The idea is that mind is something that cannot be put in a box. It's a little bit like omnipresent. It's all, everything, unified. And we have experiment this with remote vision. Is it possible, right, to go somewhere in the universe without being there, just with a mind? How's that possible? How's it possible that I can feel my son emotions in another part of the world? Our minds are more than our brains. This is another important concept of the quantum paradigm. The other important concept is that our physical body, who we are, or health, is nothing more than a reflection of our souls. What we feel, what we think, our intentions, they have an impact in our physical body. And this is what yoga teaches us, right? A lot of spiritual traditions teaches us. We don't understand that. We think that we get ill just because some random cause, something happened or we got sick. Oh, it must be something that just happened. And we're not able to link that we are building ourselves every second. Every nanosecond, we're building ourselves with our own emotions, with the way we think, and the way we feel. The reality around us is nothing more than a manifestation of this collective consciousness that is creating the reality that we are experiencing. So, if you want to visualize God, look at yourself in the mirror. You are God. You're part of this wonderful unity of consciousness in the universe that is conscious by itself. We are part of that. And by able to understand that it's really our thoughts and our feelings and our actions that change everything that we see as a collective, not as an individual, as a collective, because we're all connected. So here are a few questions for you that you have. Sorry?
I don't know how you do that.
Sorry, some technical difficulties.
We can hear it, but there's background noise, so it's a bit difficult to understand.
Can you also see?
No, there's no visuals.
Okay, how about now?
Yeah. All right, so first question to the audience.
Hello.
Do you feel your thoughts, emotions, and intentions and ideas are responsible for your health status? Yes?
Just like an echo chamber.
Anybody wants to say something? Share a story?
Mute everyone.
Maybe a story of success before you were maybe ill and you changed it just by way of thinking, by way of feeling, by changing your emotions? No? Nobody has a story? Yes?
I had cancer 5 years ago, and at the time, I was not completely unaware of what you are talking about. So basically, at first, I simply started in the hospital itself, after the chemo and the surgery and the whole bit was done, chanting mantras. And in fact, I have been chanting mantras for a long time prior to that, even as a child in my home. So from chanting of the mantras, my meditation practice grew, and I have been meditating ever since. And more, my cancer is in complete remission. It is no longer there. It is completely, I am in good health. Other than the fact that I still am struggling with another health issue, which is diabetes, and I am very aware of the connection of how that too might have started prior to the chemistry. But today I noticed that simply because of being aware of thoughts, emotions, and the practice of meditation, all of that has led to a more heightened awareness of how this is so important. And I have started to become aware that
It's not working on this computer. I don't know why.
it is hard to put into words, but maybe as you speak, I will be able to add more. But I have noticed there is a huge difference in now how I am handling, I don't know if I am doing it or it is happening of itself, but the awareness of a particular emotion and then having to not let that emotion hover over me. So it takes less and less time to now, I don't even have the word, to be in a state where I am aware of the thoughts and then not to
You
let
have to
the
turn one of them
thought
off. I don't know.
have
Yeah,
control
let's put-
over and let go. Although it is still happening, the anger still happens, the sadness happens, but it takes less and less time for it to pass.
Thank you, everyone. That's a very enlightening story that shows that we are quite capable of healing ourselves. You know, sometimes we want somebody else to come to heal us, but the real healer is really within you. You know, sometimes we think that there's some kind of a miracle medicine or doctor that is going to heal you, and many times it's just a facilitator of you becoming more conscious of yourself. By going to this suffering and all this, chemo and all these things, it just makes you aware. Maybe it's just making me feel more conscious about things. It's not the chemo itself that is curing me, it's the suffering that is making me realize things. And that's maybe the reason why those things work. Right? So now the question is, okay, so let's go a little bit of science. I don't want to be a science teacher here, but I just want to educate you in a few ideas that we have experimented in the lab. The concept of science is that we need to experiment things. We have to observe it in the labs, we have to be able to understand how it works, so we can really make it science. And even though we can talk a lot about things, we can discuss a lot about things, one of the challenges of this unification of science and religion is that, okay, what are the experiments telling me? What are the experiments saying, So I can unify these ideas that, oh yes, we have control over reality, we can, change the biology, etc., etc. But then science has to come with some experiments and facts. So everybody agrees. Science, in a way, is a little bit like a way for the full humanity to agree on something. Religions have failed because, I believe that religions come a lot with your culture, with your psychology, with politics, a lot of things. So religions fail, right, to unify things because they all have their own ways to visualize the same thing. Science, in a way, has helped us to unify the whole humanity because no matter what you believe or you don't believe, we all know that physics is physics. We all know that math is math. So here the question is, how do we make these principles universal by making them science? So one of the experiments that's perhaps the most enlightening when it comes to learning how reality works. It's called how you work with it. Next slide. Maybe you can change this for me.
avec les enjeux techniques, excusez-nous.
Yeah, it's a little bit of technical. Anyway, so this experiment is quantum physics, okay? So let me explain to you a little bit about what quantum energy is. Quantum energy is responsible for everything we see. At the end of the day, everything is just particles. Everything is made of the same thing. And this is really like amazing, you know? Even though we look different, I'm Raul, right? Mira, Brian, yeah, a little bit fatter, a little bit smaller, a little bit bigger, a little bit taller. We are made of the same thing, particles. But these particles at the quantum level, they are chaotic. They don't have any particular pattern. You know, they just think about something, these particles that move everywhere, and they're everywhere at the same time. And when scientists started to experiment with this energy, they said, well, this is very difficult to understand. This energy that is chaotic, that doesn't have any pattern, that doesn't have any way of visualizing it, is responsible for everything we see. Solid matters. How is it possible that something that we can see, like a chair, like me, like you, it is made of the same thing, but at the quantum level, this energy is chaotic. So it doesn't make any sense. Because everything we look around looks pretty solid, pretty stable. But at the quantum level, things work in a different way. So scientists were puzzled about this. So they say, okay, let's try to make some experiments to try to understand how this energy works. And the only energy that we're able to isolate is the light energy. You know, the light has quantum particles, we call photons of energy. And they started conducting some experiments. When they would shoot one of these particles, and they would create this double slit plate, thinking that, well, we need to figure it out. If I shoot a particle, I want to know if the particle is going to go to the left or is going to go to the right. So I can figure it out how the particle behaves. Because they were not able to understand really how it behaves. You know, mathematically speaking, there were some attempts, you know, Erwin Schrödinger came with some equations to try to understand this, but they wanted to see it. Okay, I want to see how this particle works. So when they started experimenting with particles, it was a bizarre effect, because the particles that were shooting sometimes will go to the left or to the right, or sometimes it will go to both at the same time. So then they were like, wow, a particle can be in two places at the same time. This is bizarre. How is it possible that the particles, so they figure maybe they split, maybe the particle splits and they come back down, but why the particles are smart enough to split exactly when it's hitting the plate? So they were very puzzled about this, right? Because the energy, even though there were manifestations of the energy, they wanted to see it. You know, as a scientist, we want to see something, we want to experiment with something. So then they say, okay, for us to see what's really going on, we're going to put a camera to see what's happening with the particle. So the particle split, what's going on, right? So they put a camera to observe the particle, and magically the particle behaved differently. Instead of going everywhere at the same time, it will just go one slit or the other. And they say, wow, how is that possible that me, as an observer, has an impact on how the energy works? So there's a connection. And this is what the scientists now, they're saying, how do we interpret this? What is interpretation? How do we can interpret this? If I observe something, the energy is chaotic, and all of a sudden it becomes matter, becomes stable. So we are part of the creation. And this is where things are like, wow. So what is real? What is not real? What is God? Because if we are part of the creation ourselves, that completely destroys all the paradigms. Like, yes, God creates everything, but we are part of that creation ourselves because we are creating things with our own observations. Everything we see around us is because we observe it. And this is where physics are saying, wow, your intentions, your thinking, your ideas have an impact on how this energy that molds reality is behaving. So we are, in a way, as a collective, as people, impact this. There have been a lot of experiments about this. I mean, I have a friend, Professor Dr. Rady, that performs experiments with random number generators. Random number generators are electrical devices, electronic devices that generate random numbers. It puts people to meditate, and the people can influence the outcome of the numbers just by meditating and by putting the intentions. And this is puzzling the whole scientific community. There's a connection between mind and matter. And obviously that breaks all the paradigms that exist. Because when we say God creates everything, that's okay, but what if you are part of this God? And then it becomes mind modeling and endless discussions. Religions, I don't like this, because now it means that people don't need me. People are part of God. Scientists, well, that doesn't make sense, because if God has nothing to do with us. So then when you're trying to understand that everything is part of the same thing, is where eventually both sides, religions and scientists, start to understand that really both are talking about the same thing. It's just about perceptions of how we perceive things, our own mental blockages. We block ourselves by not thinking and accepting new ideas. Okay, so this is a few questions for the audience. In your opinion, do we create our own reality? And have you experienced any event in your life that was a product of your intentions and desires? Have something happened in your life like magic? Something all of a sudden, you're just thinking about it for years. Sometimes it takes years, it just takes months. And all of a sudden, it happens. You study something, you study very hard, and somebody comes one day and say, oh, I need somebody like you. Oh, how did he know that I knew this thing? And all of a sudden, everything's just falling into place. Have you ever had this experience? Yes? Well, let's start with her. Yeah.
I just want to talk a little about the brains. Because I was handicapped from my head to my toe.
Louder, please. Louder.
My brains was dead. And I had no feelings in my whole body. I couldn't see. I couldn't talk. And I was grown up in a Hindu.
Sorry, the microphone only comes to here, so if you could come
it's
to
better if you come to microphone so everybody can hear you.
Thank you.
Gracias. Yes, I was handicapped from my head to my toe. My brains was dead. And I have no feelings in my whole body. I couldn't see. I couldn't talk. I couldn't hold even a piece of paper. But in my spirit, I had something in my spirit that was talking to my brains. And it was telling my brains, because I can't talk, my spirit was talking. And I was telling my brains that I have to walk. I have to talk. Because we have neurons in our brains, and we have brain cells, and we have the veins, we have everything in our brains, and our brains is a central part of our whole body.
who's the boss?
I was incontinent, none of my organs were working, and I can say as the consciousness, the subconscious and the unconscious, how wonderful it is. And this is a dream that Mr. Saxena had. He had asked me to come and teach, and he wanted to open a school also, wanted to come and teach in the school.
You're a teacher now.
And right now, the desire of Mr. Saxena had, I'm teaching in his school right now. And you all are doing a great job. We thank God for every one of you. Cristo Jesús es muy grande.
Yeah. I mean, so thank you. It's wonderful.
God bless you.
I love it. I love it.
So now I can walk, I can talk, I can jump. And you know what happened, Professor Raul? The doctor said, I'll never walk again. Did you hear that? The doctors said, I'll never walk again. I'll never be able to, I'll be vegetable. But today I am not. And it's an amazing thing what, you know, as he was saying, the creation of God, we are united together and we can make things happen.
Yes, very good. Thank you. So the other lady, please. It's all about sharing experiences because, I mean, all these things only work when we actually feel them.
Okay, my story does not have the impact that yours does because it's really non-consequential, but it does show how our intentions and desires are manifested. I come from a place where we eat pigeons, and to me they are delicious. But over here, people don't eat pigeons. So one day I found myself really wishing to have some pigeon for a meal. And there was no way I could get one. I went to the market at Jean Talon, they didn't have them. But it was about March, and I was walking down the street and I heard flapping behind me. And I look in the street and there is a pigeon with a broken wing. So I picked it up, I took it to the vet, and the vet put it to sleep. But I said, I'm still not eating a pigeon. I'm not going to eat a pigeon that's picked up from the street. So I kept wishing for a pigeon. Well, around Christmas time, I was at my kitchen window, and I looked outside, and there was an electric wire with 23 pigeons sitting on the wire. And I thought, that is amazing.
Amazing.
I didn't get to eat any of them, obviously, but it seems to me my desire for having a pigeon manifested into 23 pigeons on the wire. Later on, I visited my sister and she got me a pigeon from the butcher, and my desire for eating pigeon was fulfilled. But that was just to show how our thoughts, sometimes if we keep it long enough, will bring what we want. That's my story.
Anyone? Anyone else?
Very simple one. You can all hear me, right? Yes. Okay. I'm sure each one of you have experienced it. Because at night, if you want to wake up in the morning at a particular time, you set an alarm. Like I've experimented with this many, many times. That you set your alarm just in case it doesn't work. But all I did was, before going to bed, just say beep, say your name, and then say wake up at 6 o'clock, 6 a.m. And each time you wake up at that time. So now I've learned and I hate getting up to an alarm sound. But I'm sure most of you have experienced.
Yes.
So that probably.
No, it is a very good story because I think we all have experienced similar things. You know, you desire to wake up at one time,
Okay.
and it just happens without even having a sense of time. It's just your brain knows when it's time to wake up.
And it wakes you.
Yeah, great. So, what about connectivity? We talk about connectivity, we're all connected. So what has science has to say about this? Erwin Schrödinger, which is perhaps one of the most prominent scientists that ever existed, was a mystic too.
He's going to keep talking.
He believed in the unity of mind. We all unified. So he needed to prove it mathematically with science. And with science, with his own Schrödinger equation, he demonstrated that particles can be entangled together. That means two particles that are responsible for the reality that we see can be connected instantaneously, communicate, regardless of time and space. One particle can be in Toronto, another one in India, and the two particles communicate instantly. Okay? It sounds crazy, right? It sounds like priority. It doesn't make any sense. There is distance, there is space, there is time. I mean, physicists would say, this doesn't make sense. So what about other scientists that have proven scientifically this, we call it non-locality concept. Non-locality means that your consciousness is not subject to time and space. That you are, as at the high level, not really subject to these laws, physical laws, that are responsible for the physical reality that are ruled by the time and space physics. So your consciousness is beyond that. And this is where scientists say, no, it doesn't make sense. Everything is ruled by physics, by Newton physics. Everything is deterministic. Everything happens, it can be predicted. And everything is subject to time and space. I say, no. Your consciousness is not subject to time and space. And that obviously will open the door for the proof of existence of the soul. Because the soul always exists. And you don't have a beginning, you don't have an end. And for the mortal mind, you all have a beginning and end. Because that's what we see in the physical world. Everything is born, everything dies. So it doesn't make sense that we are immortal. But when we say that the consciousness is not subject to time and space, that opens the doors to the immortality of your own soul, or your own consciousness. Okay? So who actually worried about this thing? There was a professor in Mexico, this is the 90s, a mystic. He called himself a shaman. In Mexico we have shamans. He called himself was also a Jewish person. So he tried to, like me, unify all these mystical traditions into science. And he performed an experiment. He said, okay, I want to demonstrate that all the minds are connected. So he put two students to meditate together with intention to communicate with each other. So intentionality. I want to communicate. So they both meditated together for half an hour, and then he put them separate in two different rooms, isolated, what we call the Faraday cage. Faraday cage is basically a way to isolate the individual from possible signals to prevent cheating. You know, okay, they are actually texting when they're using cell phones to communicate. No, you are totally isolated from any electronic type of communications. And I want to show that the two brains are connected. How? He flashed one student, that when you flash, you stimulate the brain, that creates a brain pattern in your brain, and then he measured, with the help of technology, an EEG device, he was able to measure the electrical wave in the other student's brain. So he showed, he published a paper in 1993, it is possible to transfer information from brain to brain with the power of intention. So he showed that we're all connected at that level. And to his surprise, there was no delay in the transmission. That means there was no time effect in the transmission. The time was not something that influenced. So he said, well, particles at the quantum level are connected. But mind, with intentionality, makes a trick. You know, so, and this is basically how the reality works. I mean, everything works with intentionality. Everything. We don't want it to happen, it will happen. I don't want to talk to you, I don't talk to you. If we both want to talk to each other, then we start communication. Right? We see that in the real world. Well, you know, in the energy world, it's the same. You know, I mean, if anybody goes into, clairvoyance, mediumship, all these kind of, psychic techniques work with the same principle, intentionality, right? I mean, I want to communicate with another being from another dimension, whether you believe it or not, right? That's how they see the world. Everything is connected, and both sides have to have intentionality to communicate. That's how telepathy works. We have also we have conducted telepathy experiments with both individuals can transfer thoughts just with intentionality. So this is a little bit about what we have from the scientific point of view that proves the connectivity of human consciousness. But let's look at your everyday life, right? Because this happens in the labs. Okay, that's good. But how we perceive ourselves as humans. Connectivity with our friends and our family. You feel connected in a special way with your friends and family. Friends and family, they both share one thing. We want to talk to each other. Right? We have double intentionality. So we are connected in that way. Do you feel sometimes the emotions of your loved ones, even when they are not close to you? You feel the emotions of somebody. Somebody that's maybe far, is going through a rough time. All of a sudden you have like a need to call that person. Your mother, your sister, and say, you know what, I don't know what's going on, but I think you're going through a rough time. Because you feel that emotion. And what about God? You actually feel that God listens to you. One of the things that we have, in religions is that if you believe that God is somewhere on the planet, far from us, how do we know God listens to us? Unless we understand that we are entangled. We are part of it at the quantum level. So all the emotions, everything you feel, is felt by the universe, by the unity of God. You don't have to go somewhere in particular. You don't have to go to a temple. You don't have to go to, any mosque. It doesn't matter. God is always connected with you. How you felt it, it doesn't matter very well. So any story, any life-giving story you want to share with me, share it with the audience as well.
Hello, may I pose a question?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. First of all, do we really know that there is God? Because the word God is actually knowledge. Because if we go back in the past, when people's knowledge was not scientifically developed, they thought every action of nature was an action of God. Say like tsunami was never understood. Or lightning, just like in the Bible they talk about Nimrod, was a haughty king, and the Tower of Babel, people lost the language. Now, Nimrod did not know that when you build a tall structure, that you have to have a lightning rod. So all ancient scriptures, the people who wrote the ancient scriptures wrote it as much honest as according to their knowledge. So today, even when a person dies, his consciousness is in the universe. Am I right?
Correct.
Yeah, can I, I'll just, the idea of the question that's being asked on Zoom is that God is knowledge, and I'll let Rahul respond.
God concept changes as you change. The perception of God is something that is personal. You change, your God changes. If you look at history of humanity, we have created gods and an image of ourselves, or how do we perceive the world. So for you, God is knowledge. This is where you are at that point in your evolution. You're thinking God as a source of everything that happens, every knowledge that happens, because at that particular point, this is how you visualize things. The idea of God expands. It's not static. God is not something we can discover in one lifetime. It's always evolving in our minds. It's always changing, because as we change as humans, we perceive God in a different way. So this idea that I'm authority, I'm a priest, I have a God here, you have to pray to this God because this is the God that exists, doesn't fit. Because that will fit your mind as long as you believe in this guy who's telling you to believe. The minute you don't believe in me, that God falls apart. Doesn't exist anymore. So what I'm proposing is to empower yourself. Do not believe in those ones that say God is here, God is there, this is God. The God, real God, is within you. You are the one who's creating the God. Why? Because you are evolving with the God. And as you start expanding your own consciousness, and you start understanding better your position of God, then you have a different God. Because you are part of that. So the true God is the knowledge of yourself. That's the beginning of everything. Once you get to know yourself, you get to know God. That's what I have to say. So, sorry, anybody wanted to share? Yes.
Thank you. I don't really have a spectacular story like the ones that were shared, but it is nonetheless a personal success story that, you know, we all have our own experiences, and no one can maybe relate to them as much as the person going through them. So I had about 10 years ago a really something that seems minor now, but was huge at that point and totally disrupted my entire life, the way I was living. And it put me on a downward spiral where I was, you know, your identity is shaken. So I'm not going to go into what happened, but it was more what came out of it that's important. So I'm very religious, and I've always been since I was a child. I've always turned to, I believe there is a higher power. I don't know, I don't give it a name, I don't know what it is, but there is something. And I've counted on it. And during this time, I was praying, okay, why is this happening to me? I never did anything to deserve this. Everybody I know was saying, you don't deserve this. And I felt it, I don't deserve this. Why am I going through this? Nothing was coming to me. So, okay, make this go away. It wasn't going away. In fact, I was just going deeper and deeper and deeper into a hole. And then I think, as long as we're looking for answers outside, what I realized was you're not going to find them. You're trying to find a reason why. There is no reason outside. It's inside. And it comes to a point, you know, where they say when you hit rock bottom, there's only one way to look, and it's up because you can't go any lower. And I think that's the point where I hit that point, and I said, okay, obviously, and this wasn't in logic, this was in desperation. I said, there's something that the universe is trying to tell me, to teach me, and I'm not seeing it. I'm missing the point. I'm trying to find a solution for something that is maybe beyond the mind. And I'm thinking with my mind. So I said, you know what? I surrender. I give up. Show me what you want me to see, because obviously I'm not seeing it. There's something there. And it's just that giving up, that surrender. I don't know what happened. Just within days, just while I was walking, driving, doing anything, light bulbs started going off in my mind. Oh, okay, I get that. Why didn't I see that before? And it was all my own faults. It was all the stuff that I needed to correct within me that had nothing to do with the situation that I was experiencing. Okay, yeah, I shouldn't have done that. I shouldn't have said that. I shouldn't have reacted like that. Stuff like that. And then I was like, wow, that's like so simple, but why didn't I see that? Because I wasn't meant to at that point. It had to come to me through that way. And then I was so, felt so empowered by this, and I said, okay, I must not forget all these lessons I'm learning. And I wrote them. And I said, I must refer to these in future. And it's so weird, now when I look back at it, it doesn't even make sense to me. Like, what? That was so minor. But it was the experience I had to go through, and I think where you're asking about praying to God, I prayed to God, but nothing was coming to me until I surrendered to that, the power, to the universe, and said, show me. I'm ready to learn, I'm ready to know, what is it that you want to show me? And it came. So it's not a miraculous story, but for me it was nonetheless a personal growth, where it teaches you your own faults. Sorry.
Wonderful. Any other story? Loved ones? Any story you want to share? No. It's okay, we have still more things to talk about. Sorry, somebody wants to say something on Zoom? Or share experience on Zoom? Unfortunately, I don't think we can broadcast. Quantum ecology. I mean, myself, as being Mexican, always through with shamanism, the idea that these cultures, connected to Earth, Mother Earth, they call it Mother Earth. The Earth is conscious being. We're connected to that being. It's the mother, some mother. The Native Americans, we call it Tulansin, which eventually became the Mother Mary, by the way. Right? So there's an evolution of this being from early, before the Spaniards came to America. It was Tulansin, a god that was venerated by those American Indians, and it became, in Christianity, Mother Mary. Okay. Why? Because it's really, in symbol, maybe not in history, but in symbol it's the same thing. It's her mother. It's her mother. It's the one that we connected, the one that is responsible for the creation of nature. It is connected to us. It helps us to grow. It helps us to evolve. It's family to us. And all those, American Indians, they accepted Christianity. But believe it or not, even up to now, they're more connected to Mother Mary than Jesus. Because intuitively know, that's from their own intuition, from their own heritage, that the real God from them is Earth. Because that's what really is taking care of them. So that connection seems to exist. And it's measurable. In quantum mechanics and neuroscience, we have something that's called the Schumann resonance. The Earth vibrates at a particular frequency, 7.1, 7.2 hertz. The shamans know that if you put people in trance, they vibrate at the same frequency at the brain level, and that creates a magic effect. All of a sudden, that group of people that vibrating at the same energy of Earth, there's a magic communication happening. And they communicate with Earth, and they can see things, because the Mother Earth communicates through images, feelings, emotions, and there's magic. And at the beginning, when the Spaniards came to America, they said, "Oh, these guys are crazy. This is nonsense." But nowadays, the modern science, psychology say, no, maybe it makes sense. So let's look at those channels, what they do. Let's measure the brain waves. Let's measure the energy around. And now that we see that, yes, it looks like Mother Earth talks to us. We can connect to them. And the people experience these wonderful feelings, and they start experiencing these images that come to their minds, and this, spiritual knowledge. So it's like there's a communication going on with Earth. And this is magic. And maybe Ryan can talk a little about that.
Thank you, Raoul. Yeah. First of all, let me just ask you, est-ce que tout le monde qui parle français a de misère de comprendre qu'est-ce qui se passe ou ça va? Is everybody understanding? Okay. Well, I'll try to do my part in both languages. Je vais essayer de faire les deux langues. I'll just do a very quick introduction. My name is Brian Sauerfoner. I have a Master of Science. I've studied ecology. I've worked with the native people here in Quebec for more than 20 years. I've worked in healing centers, and currently I'm working for the addictions treatment centers to make sure that they're working well for all the indigenous people in Quebec. Alors, moi je suis Brian Sauerfoner, je suis écologiste, j'ai une maîtrise en biologie, j'ai travaillé avec les Autochtones de Québec pour plus de 20 ans, et j'ai travaillé dans les centres de guérison, et maintenant je suis dans une position d'aider les centres de traitement pour les dépendances, pour aider tout le monde, tous les Autochtones dans le Québec d'avoir le traitement quand ils ont besoin. So, I'm going to start with what my belief is, because as was mentioned before, it really depends on the individual. Ça dépend de l'individuel, de la croyance. Ça c'est un point d'initiation. Like was said, if you haven't surrendered and opened, you can pray, but nothing's going to come. But once you're opening and you have a belief system that allows you to connect, si on a un système de croyance, on peut connecter. So my belief is that at a certain point, beyond time and space, there's nothing, but there's something. There's consciousness, and it's all about consciousness, the moment, the internal moment. Je crois qu'il y a une conscience quand il n'y a pas l'espace ni le temps, juste la conscience. But at the same time, we have the creation of our universe, which science can measure to the tiniest fraction of a second. And science knows that something comes out of nothing. En même temps, la science a la connaissance que quelque chose arrive de rien. Ça, c'est une partie de la magique, mais la science ne peut pas décrire pourquoi. I believe it's consciousness that has this manifestation. And in our universe, with the creation of time and space, we have the creation of energy and matter, and we have the creation of evolution, a process of change through time and space, with the laws of the universe. So I'd say our universe is expressing itself through evolution. Je crois qu'il y a une conscience qui s'exprime dans l'univers, dans l'évolution. And this is a collective consciousness, saying conscience collective. So life is an expression of this collective consciousness. It's a part of the evolution of an evolving university. Alors, la vie même, c'est une expression de la conscience collective qui existe dans notre univers. At the same time, this is all simultaneous to unified consciousness in the eternal moment. They're both happening at the same time. And you can call that God if you want, what have you. But this fits with the introduction that Raoul was saying, that if there's a collective consciousness and everything on the planet is consciousness, all life is conscious, and there's a collectiveness. Ecology is a process of how the living reacts with the non-living. And if all of that is conscious, and us humans, we're part of that. We're part of evolution. We're the expression of all that. Isn't it amazing just to think about that, and think about all the cells we have in our bodies, and that we're kind of the supreme master or sovereign of all our trillions of cells, all for the same purpose. What if humanity itself had a greater purpose? Are we here just to consume and destroy nature and lead to our own extinction? Or is there something greater to our destiny, to our purpose? And here we have a second meaning of the word consciousness. What are we conscious of? What do we care about? What are we devoted to? And in the First Nations tradition, when you pray, you thank all your relations. And to me, that is ecological, because ecology is life and all relations. And there's something very, very, very sacred about that. La vie est sacrée, c'est une connexion de tout, et les humains sont une expression de ça. Les humains sont avec une conscience très haute et élevée, c'est un don. En même temps, qu'est-ce qu'on fait, la manière qu'on nous comporte? How do we conduct ourselves with this super high consciousness? So I think that the area of ecological consciousness is very important because at the same time, it allows us to tap into this magic that was talked about, the higher forces and energies that are present, that we can measure, that science can measure, and that we know exist in other life. And we can very much connect with the collective consciousness of the earth, which has an intelligence. And if we think of her as Mother Earth, I think she's sad for her children. We're the children of the earth. And look at what we're doing. So how can we apply our consciousness through these connections we have with the rest of life and have that connected to how we consciously choose to lead our life, the choices we make, the actions we do, and how do we transform the path that we're on so that we're reconnected with life and all relations once more. And I think working with the indigenous people is very important. They're teachers that can help us with how to live a good life and how to connect with spirit. I'm going to pass it back, but I'm going to just do it in French very quickly. Okay? Yeah. Alors, juste vraiment en français, l'idée qu'on a une conscience de choix. Comment on va individuellement et collectivement faire des choix conscients de comment on comporte notre vie. Comment on prend des décisions, comment on fait les relations intérieurement avec un autre et avec tout le reste de la vie. Ça, c'est une partie de connaissance écologique. Au même temps, la connaissance écologique et de santé connectée avec l'intelligence, la conscience plus large que nous, qui existe ici sur la Terre et dans toute la vie. Alors, there can be a strong strength from tapping into an ecological consciousness, and then us, as high conscious beings, can have a positive effect on that through how we live our life. And there's a lot that can be discussed on this matter. And on peut apprendre de nos sœurs et frères autochtones qui quand ils font les prières, c'est pour toutes nos relations. Et ça, c'est un concept écologique de tout qui on est à les relations intérieures de l'un à l'autre et avec tout le reste de la vie et toute la planète. Alors, c'est des choix collectifs et individuels qu'on peut faire pour vivre une mieux vie en harmonie avec l'écologie. So, I'll end on that. Thank you. Merci.
Thank you. I think we have a question here. I apologize for the Zoom attendees. I mean, I know there's going to be, it's the first time we do this dual thing, and it's not working for Zoom, but
It's being recorded.
okay.
And we can put it on later.
Okay. So there's a question there. I mean, somebody, Batcha?
Yes, I would like to know, okay, when a person passes away, say like my loved one, my parents or my spouse, when they pass away, what happens? Their consciousness is in the universe. Also, try to explain as to where does the consciousness of a person who was alive and when he passes away because the body deteriorates, does the consciousness still be existing in the world? And if the consciousness is existing in the world, how come today we have so much, we do not have peace in the world? Everybody wants peace, but how come that consciousness of peace is not overriding the negativity of the masses? So it means that the consciousness of the good, with a good intention consciousness does not have any power to override the evil consciousness? Could you kindly explain?
That's a very good question. I mean, what happens after we die? I mean, if I knew that, I would probably, have all the answers. But all I can tell you is that I'm personally conducting experiments about that, and I have my own theories, and I can change a little bit my own theories about that. It doesn't mean they're proven, because that requires a lot of work, probably hundreds of years of research and data. But consciousness, basically, there seems to be something we call the quantum field. That is something that, where everything is connected, okay? When the person is here incarnated on Earth, he seems to be attached, to the physical body by something we call the chakra system, chakras, right? At the quantum level. So there's consciousness, this consciousness that is part of the collective, that is having a human experience through the physical body, through a certain period of time, right? Once this consciousness detaches, that's what we're looking at, how the consciousness detaches itself from the body, because that's another story. It seems doesn't really go anywhere. It's just stays where you're at, where it is. I mean, consciousness, you live always in that collective consciousness, in that quantum field. The feeling is that you are detaching from this reality, where you're not really moving anywhere. You just stay where, basically, it's like just being aware of what would you were at the very beginning. So the idea of you moving around from one place to the other, to one planet to the other, seems to be a little bit of a puzzle, because in reality there's no time and space. Everything's here at the same time. So is it really the soul moving to a place we call heaven, or is heaven here? That's the question, right? Now, my personal experience, somebody has, experience with psychics, with mediums, with all these kind of individuals that talk to people that pass to their side, is that it looks like people are here. Like they are sharing. So they die, but they not really go anywhere. It's just the frequency of energy that changes. So there's no such a thing as a special place or planet that we call heaven that we all go after we die. It looks like it's all here. It's just a matter of frequencies. We change frequency. That's all it is. And we vibrate at a different frequency, and we have a different reality. There are multiple realities that seem to coexist at the same time. That's the theory of multiple universes. You probably have heard about it. It's not just one reality. It's like a little bit like when you're hearing the radio, right? You're hearing a radio station, you change the channel, it's another radio station, with another animator, with another program, with another music. Same idea. When you die, all you're doing is changing the channel. You're no longer in this channel called physical Earth. You move to another channel, and that's how people experience it. After my own research of asking people, the idea that you feel changing, from one level to another level, there's something process, they call the tunnel, blah, blah, blah. They move to a different reality that has a different set of rules, a different thing. So you're not really dying per se. All you're doing is moving from one plane of reality to another plane of reality. That's what I see. Okay? Now, there has been a lot of efforts to prove these theories, with some success or another, but we don't know for sure. So this is still a work in progress. So I hope this I know this is a difficult question to answer, but I give you something to think about. So this is a question, do you feel connected to Earth yourself? When you go to nature, when you walk, you feel like the Earth is talking to you somehow. You feel that connection. You feel that Earth is conscious, that is somehow in charge of us, like a mother. That's how the Native Americans see it. You feel that about Earth, your mother.
that takes care of nature, takes care of you, takes care of everything around us. And in what way you perceive this communication? How do you see it? Like, have you experienced something? Maybe Brian has experienced a lot of things. Or maybe you're the one to talk about this, because he has experienced a lot more of that than me.
Can I say something?
Yes, of course, you can come.
I think we kill Mother Earth by building.
Can you please give me the mic so
Yes,
that
yes,
Well, she should come up because the mic is not that
have
long.
a big voice.
No, because people on Zoom, they are saying they cannot
Sorry
hear
to
the
make
mic.
you walk a little
Yeah, when
bit.
Mrs. Sood was talking, they
Take it
could
like
not hear.
a workout. Sorry about that.
Merci.
Yeah.
I think we kill Mother Earth by building and by accepting big cities. When I am in a city, Montreal, even if it is are nice places, I don't feel at home. Never, never. I go in a country where there's nothing, just grass and some trees, and I feel alive.
Yes,
Hey.
yes.
Okay, did she want to talk too?
Yes, please. Unfortunately, the
Sorry to make
microphone
you
isn't very
My
long.
voice is like,
It's part of the yoga training today.
I don't know if this is what it is, but when I walk on grass, it lifts me up. And more, I read somewhere that we shouldn't be wearing shoes at all and constantly get out in nature. And I'm sure most of you have experienced that when we get out in nature, it makes us feel fantastic. It just lifts you from any depression or whatever. But I have another story. I don't know if this has to do with the earth or not. I have a little plant at home. And this plant, this is at the time when I had the cancer. And this plant was a gift from someone, and it was a little plant, a casuarina. I don't know if you guys know it's a plant that we have in our homes. And it grew to quite a height, and in the summertime I would put the plant outside and then bring it back during the winters. So at the time of my cancer, this plant, when we brought it inside, it started losing leaves. So I don't know if it was the fantasy in my head or whatever, but I just wanted to get rid of the plant because I felt, I don't know, for some strange reason, but there was a cleaning lady in my home at the time, and she says, no, the leaves are shedding, but once I clean it up, it's going to be fun. So I said, okay. So we shook the plant, it dropped most of the leaves, and it appeared to be done. And for some reason, as I lay on the couch every day when I came back from chemotherapy, I would look at this plant and I said, if I look after this plant and this plant revives, my life resides in this plant. I don't know if it was all a concoction in my mind, if it had made any sense at all, but that plant started to revive. That plant became new again.
Okay, how do we unify these two aspects of religion and science? Part of my work is to say, well, for me to understand Christianity, which is probably the most prevalent religion that we have here in the West, I have to understand really what those Christians, at the very beginning, were saying. Not the ones that came after, the whole Catholic Church and the whole European thing. Let's see what happened at the very beginning. What those people were saying from the beginning. Because my experience is that when I started reading these early Christian scriptures, they talk about different Christianity. At the time, it didn't make sense, because at the time, let's think about what was happening at the time. There was Apollo. What's Apollo? Apollo was the Greek god, this, human type of god that has human emotions, gets angry with people, sends people to tell them you're wrong, and sends people to give them their will. That was what the image of God was at the time. The same Romans had their own religions, Mitra. Then you have the Jewish God, the God that gets angry too, has human emotions, talks to people like, with voice, not just with feelings. So you have a different pattern. And then you have Christians saying, no, that's not really what God is. God is a connection of everything. We're all God. And then the Romans say, especially the priests, you're lying. That's not a real God. We are used to gods that they get angry, that they have authority, and they send people to tell us their will. And these people that come to earth, they make miracles to show that they are powerful and they are sent by God. This is what we understand as religion. So, one of the Gospels that got my attention is the Gospel of Mary, a woman. A woman was a follower of Jesus, the 13th apostle, we call it. A woman actually knew more than all of those guys. And he started preaching things such as the connectivity of consciousness, such as, God has been one, such as evolution, such as, emotional control. Things that don't fit in Orthodox Christianity, right? Christianity is all about this Jesus guy who comes and tells you that he is the answer to everything, so we have to believe in him blindly, and we have to believe in authority. That's really what Orthodox. So she says, no, that's not what it is. Of course, when the Roman priests look at this, wait a minute, a woman now is telling me what to do? Doesn't make any sense. Plus, look at what she's saying. She's saying that everyone has God within them, and they can be connected to God directly. And he says that we all come back to God. There is an evolution process, and we all are part of this connection. And everything that happens in this world is a product of our own actions. There's no sin, something that she teaches. Sin and feel guilty is just an illusion in your mind. It's all about learning. We do things we call sins, and they come back to us. So I was teaching about the law of karma, the cause and effect. So when the Romans look at this, no, it doesn't make sense. There's no miracles here. There's no somebody sent by God. There's no God that is, powerful, that needs to be worshipped. This is heresy. That was the word they used back then. Everything that was against their view of life, we'll call it heresy. That was the way to diminish everything. And political, right? Imagine if you had made Mary Magdalene an apostle, what happened to Christianity? We have to have women in power. And back then, there was no choice. They don't know what to do that. So the Roman Empire decided to burn this scripture. Burn it. No, we don't want people to know that it exists. But somebody rescued this from Egypt. Egypt back then was the center, I will say, of the universal treasure knowledge in terms of spirituality. So all those people that were persecuted by political power would go to Egypt, because Egypt was kind of the Mecca or the place where people would be accepted, because it was the most openest place. So they will accept these ideas. They were compatible with the way of thinking, more liberal thinking. So a lot of these scriptures that we rescued from early Christianity were found in Egypt. Okay. So here's a little part of the scripture that I was able to recover. And it says there, will matter then be destroyed or not? Which actually relates to the gentleman asking the question, what happened, when you die, right? That's the question, right? So will matter be destroyed or not? So then the Savior, now the word Savior here, in the terms of this type of Christianity, is not the one who saves you. It's more like the enlightener, somebody who's teaching you something to enlighten you. That's what really the word Savior means. It's not somebody who's going to save you, like in the English term. Somebody's going to bring you to heaven. It's somebody who's going to make you more conscious. That's what it means, Savior. So the Savior means all nature, all formations, all creatures exist in and with one another, and they will resolve again into their own roots. For the nature of matter is resolved into the roots of its own nature alone. And that's a little bit cryptic, a little bit hard to understand. But what she's saying is, we're all connected. All the creatures are within each other, meaning we're all part of one. And at the end of the days, we all go back to the source, the roots. So what happens when you die? Nothing really dies. It just goes back. Because that energy that used to create is not destroyed. Nothing is destroyed in the universe, it's just transformed. The energy principle that some physicists call it the law of thermodynamics, that nothing is really destroyed. Back then, there was no physics. There was no quantum. There was nothing like that. Cheating in this little saying, right? Saying that nothing really gets destroyed. How should we know that? Okay? And this is what we're teaching back then. You can now understand why in those early Christians were persecuted. Because it will be a threat to everything, the establishment that was back then. Everything was about power, the religions were about power, the priests were about authority. We are the ones who guide people. We are the ones who tell you what to believe, not to believe. Somebody's saying, no, that's not the way it is. They took Christianity because it was popular. Jesus as a character was popular, but they transformed it into something else. Now, nowadays, because we have more knowledge of science, more knowledge of things, this makes sense to us now. Right? It makes a lot of sense to us. But back then, those priests of Rome said, no, this is heresy. And they declared it, and they started reinventing their own Christianity. So my hypothesis here is that Christianity is still a work in progress. It hasn't ended yet. It hasn't really been mature yet. It is now, but slowly, we start seeing things in a different way that will not just think about Christianity in a different way, but as Hinduism in a different way, as Buddhism in a different way, and eventually realize that they all talk about the same thing. It's just those humans with strong egos, with strong power hungers, that take those ideas, they twist them around to give themselves some power. Okay? And this is not just Christianity, it happens everywhere. Okay? It's not just to say one did it. It's part of human evolution. But nowadays, we go back in history. Okay, let's see what the Buddha was saying. Back then, before now, let's see what Muhammad was saying. And we start realizing that they're all talking about the same thing. It's the same beings who are revealing this information for us to be able to wake up. But it's not them dictating us what to do. It's them trying to make us wake up, to wake up that consciousness. So the idea of somebody being sent to us to tell us what to do, is what religions have, all of them, right? Made us believe. Somebody said here about belief system. Okay? Belief system, or what you believe, moves everything. Okay? This lady is still there. What you experience is the power of belief. Okay? Your consciousness moves everything with that. When you believe in something very strongly, when that becomes part of your consciousness, the same thing, everything moves. Everything starts flowing. Okay? It is not something like a God that you have to believe, or Jesus you have to believe. It's yourself connected with everything around you that makes this magic. So the miracle is not a Jesus, it's not a Muhammad, or it's not a religion, it's you. You make your own miracles with your own consciousness, with your own awareness that you're connected to this power. And by starting, aligning yourself with this power, eventually you start realizing that you are able to change everything you have. Your life, your health, everything around you. The alignment of yourself with this universal consciousness is really what makes the miracles. Because at the end, what Magdalene was saying is that you get sick, because your own way of thinking. You get sick because you're still not aligned with the universal consciousness. There is a way to keep the whole universe in harmony. You have to learn how to keep yourself in harmony with the universe, not the way around. And the signal for the universe is illness, problems. So eventually something inside of you kicks in. She was teaching that this quantum stuff, right? Before Catholic Church. So when I started reading this, I said, well, obviously we have two Christianities here. Two ways of seeing things in a different way. And eventually we got a different version because politics, because power and so on. But it's a little bit of my work. How do we rescue all that knowledge and we merge it with modern science? So here's a few questions. Do you feel that the goal of every human is to be unified with God as universal consciousness, not as an individual being with human personality, but as the unity of everything? How do you feel about that? You think that everything in the universe is connected and we are part of this connectivity? Do you feel connected to God regardless of time and space? And quantum physics, not that you know a little bit of quantum physics, can it help us to unify all these concepts? What do you think? Yes? I hope so. So anybody wants to say something?
Well, my answers to all those questions are definitely yes, and it fits as well with the idea of an ecological consciousness that's connected. And each of us, we can think of the universe as a big hologram, you know, and each piece is a small representation of the totality. If you take the totality of everything, it's all interconnected, and there's consciousness in it all. And if you take everything together and then eliminate time and space, you then eliminate matter and energy and everything, and you're left with nothing but the eternal moment by consciousness, God, if you want to call it that. But then people say that this is all an illusion because that's the only truth. I think they're both true. We're living in a paradox. So if each of our cells inside of us, if we are in control of it and we have all these systems within us so we can live life, and then if the living planet is an interaction of all these different beings and ecosystems, and you know, isn't that amazing? Isn't that magic? And can we connect with that, feeling inside ourselves and with everything? And then what are we going to do with that? Because we do have our consciousness, we do have time and space, we do have agency with our own actions. So, yes, we can connect, I believe, to a higher source of inspiration, and that's inside us as well. So maybe inspiration itself is just opening yourself up, your own internal process to be inspired by the collective. And I'm wondering if we're being asked to do anything, maybe take better care of things. That's what I believe, and that's what I believe all spiritual and mystical teachings are from people who've evolved from different groups and ways of understanding what's around them. And the teachings are how to live a good life, and that's what a religion originally was. It's not about power and control. So somehow we have to let go of that, and as a collective we certainly have to let go of that and find our way back to being harmonious again. It's a difficult challenge at this time, and I think our high consciousness are being asked, being ecologically responsible.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Brian. Thank you very much for sharing that inside knowledge. So thank you very much, everyone, for taking the time to attend this lecture. And I'm sorry for the guys in Zoom. I know we had some technical problems, but we'll fix it next time. Nice, and thank you very much, Brian.
Thank you.
Let's enjoy now some food.
How can we learn more about this?
You can send me an email if you want. I don't have my email address there, but you can just Google me and you can find me, I'm sure. I have tons of books, tons of things. I can give it to you, no problem.
We can also put links on the website.
Yeah, we have also a website. I will make available more literature there. the idea is that we have to educate ourselves in these matters to learn to get to know ourselves better. The idea of this paradigm is that it's really by learning who you are, is that you can understand things. It's like, it's really within you, the knowledge is within you, you have to unleash that. And slowly start, something clicks inside of you, and you start figuring out, wow, that makes a lot of sense now. You know?
Without having studied this, I know,
Yes,
I
yes.
believe this, I know this.
I know. Because this is already, that's what they were teaching back then, that the knowledge is already within you. You think the universe created you without no spiritual knowledge? The idea is you have to find it, you have to be able to connect with it. It's not about reading scriptures, and this is what religions, in a way, have deceived us. There's a book somewhere that has the answers to everything you need to know. No. Is your life really your experience, together with your own reflections, with your own inside knowledge, that creates that magic? So it's not about me memorizing chapters of the Bible or the Quran or any book. Oh, the answer is there somewhere, you know? Matthew something or John something. No. It's about really living your life and connecting it with your inside knowledge and eventually growing and learning that really life is about evolution, being happy, about progressing and making everybody around you happy. It's not about being miserable, punishment. Oh, they're bad guys, they are sinners. We have to, be punished because, God is punishing us. No, you're punishing yourself because you're on wrong thinking. Here what we're saying is, there's no need to suffer. There's no need to have misery. You are meant to be happy forever. You have to learn to be happy.
And in the end, it's love that wins.
Correct.
Right? Always love.
But now, right now it looks like we live in the Revelation, Apocalypse. Don't you think so?
Yes, there's a change of paradigms.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
very much.
And
Thanks.
I think how if we are all connected, how come we are so very, very little person who knew it since the beginning, since 3 years? How come we were so little? Since the beginning, I knew that everything happens right now is bullshit, but I was nearly the only
Because
one
you have
who
previous
was wrong.
lives.
And
You've
now
been here before.
The truth come out now, slowly, but
That's a different story.
Okay, so I will thank Dr. Rao and Brian. I'm sorry I'm not using the full name. And yeah, we really enjoyed your things. One thing I regret that I did not announce, that there is brunch in the dining room. I should have announced in the beginning that if you are leaving early, please don't go without eating. So I went in between and I have displayed the lunch. And as Dr. Rao and Brian, they were our honorary speaker. We haven't paid them anything, but as Vinesh, as a token, I will present them a shirt of Vinesh Saxena Family Foundation.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Oh, this is a Vinesh church.
Yeah.
Anyways, thank you very much. It was a wonderful experience for me. At least I enjoyed it.
Thank you very much. Hope you all have a good. Merci beaucoup.
Just say bye to the guys from Zoom. Thanks for the guys from Zoom. The ones who stayed, probably one or two. Especially Dr. Bacha, who's doctor, right? So, yes. Diane, I know you from before. Thanks for staying. Booblies, I don't know, but thanks for staying. I apologize for all the technical issues. We want to figure it out. It was just an experience for us. The next time we'll make sure that things work out. All right, thank you very much. Thanks for your thought-provoking questions. Yes. Because the way the setup, we don't have a camera looking. We have a camera here, but the camera is not connected to Zoom. We do have a lot of technical problems. That's why I said next time we're going to figure out. We have a camera, but it's not working with the Zoom. Zoom setting is not done properly. So I apologize. I was not in charge of this, but I will advise them on how to fix it next time. Yes, it is a privilege. Anyways, thank you very much. I have to disconnect. Let's stay for. Thanks for staying.
Merci beaucoup.